Good evening, Chamber members, and welcome to the weekly Government Affairs video recap. This is the third installment and follows up on your daily email updates, of which you can find archived on our COVID-19 resource page at www.JolietChamber.com. It seems like this week was one of wait and see. Let's wait and see what happens. We waited to hear from Governor Pritzker about what was going to happen with a stay-at-home order continuation. Then we waited to hear if and when Congress was going to vote and pass the infusion of funds into assistance programs. And now we wait to see how many businesses are going to receive the second round of those funds. If you have not already spoken with a local lending institution, now is the time to get your application in for PPP funds and/or go to the SBA website to apply for EIDL loans. First, let's tackle the highlights of the stay-at-home continuation. Governor Pritzker announced he will extend his stay-at-home order, previously set to expire April 30th, through the end of May. He also announced that he will be easing some of the restrictions from the original stay-at-home order. Here's what will be in effect starting on May 1st. Individuals 2 and older will be required to wear a face covering in public anytime they can't maintain 6 feet of distance from others, including at indoor places such as stores. Businesses will have to require that all employees and customers wear face coverings if they cannot maintain the 6 feet distance. Essential businesses must provide masks to all employees who can't maintain the proper social distance. Some state parks will reopen on May 1st. A list of those parks that will be open is available on the Illinois Department of Natural Resources website. Fishing and boating will be allowed in groups of no more than 2 people, but hunting remains suspended. Golf courses will be allowed to reopen with social distance guidelines in place. Greenhouses, garden centers, nurseries, and pet groomers have been added to the list of essential businesses beginning in May. Essential businesses will be required to follow new guidelines, such as limiting the number of people in a store at any given time and staggering workers' shifts. Finally, retailers that are not classified as essential businesses will now be permitted to reopen and take telephone and online orders for outside pickup and delivery. You can find the full executive order on our resource page as well. Next, let's talk about Congress passing the relief package. Roughly $484 billion in coronavirus relief for small businesses, hospitals, and expanded medical testing will be opening up. The newest package is the 4th to pass through Congress since the pandemic began and now brings the total relief to approximately $2.8 trillion. The following is included in this newest fund infusion. $310 billion to replenish the Paycheck Protection Program, $60 billion of which is earmarked for community banks and smaller lenders who tend to cater to those underserved businesses. $60 billion for the EIDL program, $75 billion for hospitals and community health centers, and $25 billion to boost COVID-19 testing, divided between state and federal government. President Trump signed this today, and we've been told that the SBA will begin to accept PPP applications again from banks starting 9:30 on Monday morning. Also, we are working to confirm a time next week with Congressman Foster for a video conference update on the past aid. Now let's talk more about the CARES 2 Act, or Phase 4 possibilities that have begun to surface over the past week. The first proposal calls for every American aged 16 and older making less than $130,000 annually to receive at least $2,000 per month for at least the next 6 months. The payments would continue until employment returns to pre-coronavirus levels. Another proposal calls for the federal government to cover 80% of wages for workers at any U.S. business up to the national median wage until the coronavirus crisis is over. Businesses would be eligible for a bonus if they rehire workers laid off over the past month. Under yet another proposal, all employers whose monthly revenue has dropped at least 20% would be eligible for federal grants to cover a portion of payroll and benefits for at least 6 months. A recent bill filed would set up $500 billion to help states and local governments respond to the health and economic crisis while maintaining essential services. The money would be divided into 3 portions and distributed based on population, the number of coronavirus cases, and revenue losses. Finally, healthcare workers battling the coronavirus might get hazard pay in the next package. The money could come in the form of bonuses through a plan to increase pay for essential workers, including those in the healthcare field, in sanitation, and at grocery stores. The fund would increase pay up to $25,000 or $13 an hour from the start of the crisis to the end of the year. Lastly, do we finally see a bill included to fix the nation's roads, bridges, and broadband? Here in Illinois, Senate President Don Harmon has reached out to members of the Illinois congressional delegation seeking a $40 billion federal bailout to prop up the state's underfunded public employee pensions, to fund unemployment insurance, and to aid hospitals and cities. Here's a breakdown of the $40 billion asked for. $15 billion grant to stabilize the state budget, $10 billion toward pension system payments, $9.6 billion in direct aid to Illinois cities, and $6 billion for the state's unemployment insurance fund. Days after receiving this letter, Senator McConnell made the comment in Washington that maybe states should be allowed to declare bankruptcy rather than ask the federal government for relief aid to cover pension payments. We'll see how this plays out. Workers' Compensation Restraining Order. A temporary restraining order will block the recent rule that was to grant workers' comp benefits for all employees of essential businesses that were diagnosed with the coronavirus, regardless if they could provide proof of contracting it at the job site. This order will last until May 1st, which is the scheduled first day of oral arguments on the lawsuit. We're unclear when the Illinois General Assembly will be allowed to return to work. The end of May is the end of session. Any bill passed after May 31st shall not become effective prior to June 1 of the next calendar year unless the General Assembly, by the vote of 3/5 of the members elected each house, provides for an earlier effective date. Remember, Democrats do control a supermajority in both the Senate and the House here in Illinois. Finally, a reminder about our COVID-19 impact survey. The survey can be found on our resource page again at JolietChamber.com. We look forward to next week when we'll likely discuss further all the new proposals for what is being referred to as the CARES 2 Act. That's it for today. We wish you a great weekend. Thanks.